icon of Motown, whose soulful music won the world's heart. Tragically, on April 1, 1984, he was shot and killed during a domestic dispute with his own father. He left behind 3 children, one son from his first marriage and a daughter, and son from his second marriage. Over the decades, one of Marvin's kids would fight a high-profile legal battle over a hit pop song. Another would shine in Hollywood and even collaborate with Prince. The youngest would opt for a quiet life out of the spotlight. How did each of them carry on their father's legacy? And where are they now? Number 3. Marvin Gaye III. He was born in 1965 and adopted by Marvin and his first wife, Anna Gordy Gaye, in the late 1960s. His biological mother was Anna's teenage niece, Denise Gordy, a family secret that only emerged years later. As the cherished only son in Marvin's first marriage, young Marvin III grew up literally surrounded by music. Both of his parents were deeply involved in the music industry, and the family home even included its own recording studio. From an early age, he was exposed to the creative energy of Motown. Imagine being a little boy and seeing legends of soul music coming through your living room. But life changed drastically for Marvin III when his father died in 1984. Suddenly, at 18, he was the man of the family and co-heir to a musical legacy. Marvin Gaye had not left a will, so Marvin III, still a teenager, was named a co-executor of his father's estate. He took that responsibility seriously. In 1987, a few years after his dad's passing, Marvin III proudly stood beside his mother Anna on stage to accept Marvin Gaye's posthumous induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a poignant moment, the young man publicly honoring his father's contributions to music in front of the world. Marvin Gaye III has always been determined to protect and uplift his father's name. This became most clear in 2013 when he was thrust into the spotlight over a major legal battle. That year, the Marvin Gaye estate, with Marvin III at the forefront, filed a lawsuit against artists Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams, claiming their smash hit song Blurred Lines had plagiarized Marvin's classic Gotta Give It Up. The case drew massive media attention. Marvin III explained that the family's only goal was to defend his father's work. He said he just wanted to see my father get credit for his work. It wasn't about money or fame. It was about doing right by Marvin Gaye's legacy. What the public didn't know is that at the same time, Marvin Gaye III was fighting a very personal battle. He was suffering from type 2 diabetes, and his kidneys were failing. In fact, as the Blurred Lines lawsuit ramped up, Marvin III was desperately in need of a kidney transplant to stay alive. His attorney even revealed his condition on TV, hoping that the publicity might lead a donor to come forward. And remarkably, that's exactly what happened. The high-profile nature of the case ended up saving Marvin III's life. A man named Rick Green saw Marvin III's plea on Entertainment Tonight and decided to help. In May 2014, Green donated one of his kidneys to Marvin Gaye III, who was incredibly grateful for this second chance at life. In a way, Marvin's music literally helped heal his son by connecting him to the donor. The legal battle itself finally reached a conclusion a few years later. In 2018, a jury ruled in favor of the Gaye family, agreeing that Blurred Lines improperly copied Marvin's groove. The court awarded approximately $5 million in damages to Marvin Gaye's estate. It was a huge victory for Marvin III and his family, and a precedent-setting case in the music industry. One can only imagine Marvin Gaye smiling down, knowing his children stood up for him. As Marvin's kids wrote in an open letter, they felt their dad would be vigilant about safeguarding artists' rights, and that giving credit where it's due was a sacred devotion. By winning this fight, Marvin III helped ensure his father got that proper credit. While championing his father's cause, Marvin Gaye III also tried to carve out his own path. he ventured briefly into making music himself. In 2013, he released an EDM single titled "Can't Take My Eyes Off You," and even featured his wife in the music video. Earlier, he had married a woman named Wendy in 2010, and for a while, they seemed to be a happy couple collaborating on that project. However, in recent years, Marvin III's personal life has seen serious turmoil. In January 2023, a domestic dispute at Marvin III's home led to his arrest on allegations of misdemeanor, domestic violence, and assault with a deadly weapon. His wife, Wendy, claimed that during an argument, he had physically attacked her and threatened her and her cousin with a gun. She obtained a temporary restraining order for protection. Marvin III denied these allegations, calling them false claims and insisting I wouldn't do that. Nevertheless, the incident marked a low point. He filed for divorce shortly after, and the marriage was officially dissolved in 2024. Additionally, an unrelated civil lawsuit was filed by another woman around that time, accusing Marvin III of assault and false imprisonment, which he also vehemently refuted. These events have been painful and very public, casting a shadow on his later years. Now approaching 60 years old, Marvin Gaye III tends to keep a low profile, except when it comes to family matters. He is a father himself, extending Marvin Gaye's lineage to another generation. From a previous relationship, Marvin III has two sons, Marvin Gaye IV, born in 1995, and Dylan Gaye, born in 2000. He kept the family tradition going by, naming his eldest Marvin IV, the fourth in line to bear the name. Despite the ups and downs, Marvin Gaye III remains dedicated to preserving the Gaye legacy. He has lived a life in the long shadow of a legend, with all the blessings and burdens that entails. Number 2. Nona Aisha Gaye. She was born on September 4, 1974, to Marvin Gaye and his second wife, Janice Hunter Gaye. Nona was the apple of her father's eye during her early childhood, but heartbreakingly, she was only 9 years old when her father was killed by his own father in 1984. At that tender age, Nona couldn't fully grasp who Marvin Gaye was to the world. He was just Daddy to her. She later admitted, "I didn't understand the work. I was too young." And it was only as she grew older that she truly discovered his music and its message. A huge part of Nona's connection to her dad came from her mother, Janice. After Marvin's death, Janice Hunter Gaye devoted herself to keeping Marvin's memory alive for their children and for the world. Janice would lovingly tell Nona and Frankie stories about their father, explaining not just his fame, but his values, struggles, and dreams. She played Marvin's records in the house so that the kids grew up with his voice always around. From the time she met my father, she was exposed to the way he saw this world was aching, Nona said of her mom. And she did her best to preserve his legacy as he was taken from us far too early. Janice wanted everyone to appreciate Marvin Gaye, not just as a singer, but as the man she knew and loved. Nona deeply admired her mother's strength. When Janice passed away in late 2022 at the age of 66, Nona publicly thanked her for protecting Marvin's legacy every moment, making sure everyone knew the man she fell in love with. In her late teens, Nona decided to follow in Marvin's footsteps. She pursued a career in music. In October 1992, just 1 month after turning 18, Nona released her debut album, Love for the Future, on Atlantic Records. That was a big step for a young woman carrying the last name Gaye. Impressively, the album produced a modest hit. A song called I'm Overjoyed reached number 1, 17 on the Billboard Hot R&B Singles chart in late 1992. Nona's silky vocals proved that musical talent runs in the family. She was even named one of People magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People in 1993, stepping into the spotlight in her own right. A few years later, in 1995, Nona took on a very special music project dedicated to her dad. She participated in the tribute album Inner City Blues, the music of Marvin Gaye, which reimagined her father's classic songs. Nona performed the title track Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler, and helped assemble an all-star lineup for the album, including big names like Madonna, Stevie Wonder, Bono, and Boyz II Men, all paying homage to Marvin. Through this project, Nona used her own voice and influence to ensure Marvin's music stayed alive for a new generation. Nona Gaye's talents didn't stop at music. She soon branched out and found success in Hollywood as well, becoming an actress and even a fashion model. In fact, one of her most notable collaborations was with the legendary artist Prince. In the mid-1990s, Nona both worked with and dated Prince for around 3 years. The two creative souls recorded at least 4 songs together. One duet called Love Sign was officially released in 1994. This partnership with Prince showed that Nona wasn't living in her father's shadow. She was making her own mark among music royalty. However, Nona eventually shifted focus to acting, where she would reach an even wider audience. Nona's acting break came in 2001, when she made a startlingly good film debut. As one critic described it, in Michael Mann's biographical film, Ali. She portrayed Belinda Ali, the second wife of boxing legend Muhammad Ali, acting opposite Will Smith. Nona earned praise for her performance. It was a challenging role, and she pulled it off brilliantly for a newcomer. Then, in 2003, fate intervened to give Nona a very unique role. She was cast in The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions as the character Z. Originally, that role was meant to be played by R&B singer Aaliyah, but after Aaliyah's tragic death in a plane crash, the filmmakers chose Nona to step in and carry the torch. Nona's portrayal of Z, a rebel fighting for humanity in the sci-fi epics, even earned her an Into AACP Image Award nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress. It was an emotional experience, stepping into a role passed on by another late music star, and Nona handled it with grace. She helped complete the films, which were huge worldwide hits. In 2004, Nona also had a part in the acclaimed ensemble film Crash, and she lent her voice to the animated movie The Polar Express that same year. By the mid-2000s, Nona Gaye had built an impressive acting resume, showing a range that might have surprised those who only knew her as Marvin Gaye's daughter. Throughout these endeavors, Nona never forgot the legacy she came from. One particularly touching moment was in 2004, when Nona performed a virtual duet with her late father during an NBA All-Star Weekend event. During archival footage of Marvin Gaye's singing, Nona sang alongside the video of her dad in a moving tribute that gave longtime fans goosebumps. It was as if father and daughter were sharing the stage, transcending time. Moments like that underscored how deeply Nona treasures her father's memory. In her personal life, Nona has kept certain things private, but one very special aspect she has shared is her child. Nona is the mother of a son named Nolan Pence Gaye, born in 1997. If that middle name sounds familiar, it's because Pence was Marvin Gaye's middle name, a loving tribute to the grandfather Nolan never got to meet. By giving her son that name, Nona ensured that a piece of Marvin lives on in the next generation. These days, Nona Gaye is around 50 years old and has taken a step back from the public eye, especially after effectively retiring from acting in the late 2000s. Number 1. Frankie Christian Gaye. He was born on November 16, 1975, to Marvin and Janice, barely a year after his sister Nona. Marvin named his son Frankie as a heartfelt tribute to his own beloved younger brother, Frankie Gaye. Marvin's brother was also a musician who served in Vietnam. Little Frankie had only a short time with his famous dad. He was just 8 years old when Marvin Gaye was killed. too young to fully grasp the tragedy. Frankie grew up under the care of his mother Janice and in the protective shadow of his father's legacy. Unlike his siblings, Frankie Gaye chose not to pursue a life in the limelight. In fact, among Marvin's children, Frankie is the most private and least publicly known. While Marvin III and Nona both followed their father into the entertainment industry, Frankie decided on a quieter path. He stayed out of show business entirely. No albums, no movies, no splashy public profile. Instead, Frankie has lived a relatively low-key life, away from the cameras and headlines. That was a deliberate choice, possibly to find a sense of normalcy that's hard to come by when your last name is Gaye. Friends of the family have described Frankie as a down-to-earth, kind soul who simply didn't crave the spotlight. He has largely left the public storytelling about Marvin to his older brother and sister, preferring to keep his own memories of Dad private. However, just because Frankie stays out of the news doesn't mean he isn't fiercely proud of his father or involved in honoring him. On the contrary, Frankie has stood shoulder to shoulder with Marvin III and Nona during critical moments to defend their father's legacy. For example, during the 2013 Blurred Lines controversy, Frankie may not have been doing TV interviews, but he was very much part of the effort behind the scenes. He joined his siblings in writing an open letter, published in Rolling Stone, to address misconceptions about the lawsuit. In that public statement, Marvin's children explained why they took legal action and what Marvin Gaye's music meant to them. "We will celebrate what would have been our dad's 76th birthday next month," they wrote. "And though we miss him every day, it is through his music that we find our compass and our paths moving forward." Frankie, Nona, and Marvin III wanted people to know that they weren't motivated by greed or malice. They were simply doing what their father taught them. Stand up for what's right. We are his children, but we too are his fans, and we hold his music dear, the Gaye siblings declared in their letter. It's a beautiful sentiment that shows how Frankie views his role. He might not be a celebrity, but he's a guardian of Marvin Gaye's flame in his own sincere,